Captain Eris Thorne stood on the command bridge of the Stellaris, a vast, self-sustaining arc of ambition, and watched as the very foundation of humanity's galactic future threatened to crumble. The Stellaris, not a warship but a living testament to human ingenuity, stretched over 2 kilometers, a titan of polished durasteel and shimmering biolumina glass. It was designed not for destruction, but for creation. To seed life on barren worlds, to sculpt atmospheres, to coax ecosystems into being across the untamed dark. For nearly a decade, it had been his home, his purpose, and the brightest symbol of humanity's boundless aspiration. "Captain, the Council delegation is here," Commander Xylos Kaeln reported, his voice a low thrum of suppressed fury. Xylos, a man whose quiet intensity belied a deep-seated passion for the Stellaris' mission, kept his gaze fixed on the main viewscreen, as if refusing to acknowledge the looming presence behind them. Eris nodded, a tight knot forming in his stomach. He'd seen this coming for weeks, ever since humanity's probationary admission into the Galactic Concord. The established species, ancient and cautious, viewed humanity with a mix of fascination and profound unease. Their rationale was always the same: too rapid in development, too unpredictable in their adaptive evolution, too vibrant. They didn't understand the human drive to explore, to expand, to become asterisk. The bridge's primary access door hissed open, admitting the 3 figures who now held humanity's destiny in their alien hands. First was the Lumina emissary, Ethel, a shimmering column of coalesced light, its form subtly shifting to reflect its mood, currently a cool, dispassionate blue. The Lumina were a psionic, collective intelligence, valuing order and predictability above all else. Humanity, with its chaotic, individualistic spirit, was an anomaly they simply couldn't compute. Next, the Kroth hegemon, Urgorath, a mountainous being of armored plates and craggy, mineral-rich hide, moved with a ponderous, earth-shaking tread. The Kroth were ancient resource magnates, their vast empire built on methodical extraction and territorial dominance. They saw humanity's relentless drive to create new resource bases as a direct threat to their established order. Finally, the Sylvani arbiter Viridia floated in, a graceful tangle of phosphorescent vines and woody exoskeletons, trailing a faint, earthy scent. The Sylvani were custodians of pristine worlds, deeply attuned to ecological balance. They found humanity's terraforming ambitions, their very act of imposing new biospheres on nascent planets, to be an act of profound hubris and dangerous biological intervention. "Captain Eris Thorne," Ethel's voice resonated directly within Eris's mind, a chorus of thousands, yet perfectly modulated. "We are here to oversee the redesignation of this vessel. The Galactic Concord has voted. Humanity's deep space exploration and terraforming initiatives are deemed a destabilizing influence. The Stellaris must have its long-range FTL drives neutralized, its core terraforming suites decommissioned, and its research laboratories repurposed for confined sector transit." Eris finally turned, his face etched with the weariness of a man fighting a losing battle, but his eyes burned with an unyielding fire. "Emissary Ethel, hegemon Urgorath, arbiter Viridia, I understand your orders, but I must protest. The Stellaris is a vessel of life, of expansion, of peace. We seek only to grow, to find new homes among the stars, not to threaten. Our terraforming methods are meticulous, our ecological impact assessments stringent." Urgorath rumbled, a sound like grinding tectonic plates. "Humanity's growth is the concern, Captain. Your species adapts to new environments with unsettling speed. Your influence on nascent worlds is unpredictable. Your methods for resource acquisition are, shall we say, unconventional. Unconventional, Eris retorted, his voice rising, betraying the raw frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. "We bring life to dead rocks. We've spent decades proving our commitment to galactic peace, to shared knowledge. Our technologies are offered freely. Yes, Viridia's voice, a soft whisper of rustling leaves, echoed through the bridge. But your gifts are too potent too. Disruptive asterisk. The Concorde cannot risk the unforeseen variables of uncontrolled human expansion. Your history speaks to an unsettling ability to thrive in any condition, to turn any challenge into an advantage. That adaptability is perceived as a threat. Aris wanted to argue, to rail against the injustice, but he knew it was futile. The decision had been made in the gilded halls of the Concorde, ratified by species who saw humanity's boundless spirit not as a virtue, but as an existential risk. Humanity was still the newest member, still on probation, still regarded as a curious, potentially dangerous anomaly. The Stellaris will be redesignated as a Type Gamma intersector freight hauler within 6 cycles. Ethel's voice resonated with cold finality. All long-range FTL drives will be disengaged. All terraforming arrays will be reconfigured for rudimentary cargo transfer. All advanced research labs will be recalibrated for basic atmospheric processing for waste management. The vessel itself will be constrained to the Kepler sector, transporting basic goods between established colonies. Any deviation will result in immediate termination of human Concorde membership. The words hit Aris like physical blows. The Stellaris wasn't just a ship, it was the embodiment of humanity's boldest dreams. Without its true capabilities, humanity would be effectively caged, restricted to a small, already populated corner of the galaxy, their inherent drive to explore stifled. What about the uncharted systems, the distant exoplanets, the very promise of a boundless future? After the alien delegation departed, their forms shimmering out of existence, Aris remained on the bridge, staring out at the distant, beckoning stars. His crew worked quietly around him, their movements stiff, their faces grim. They had all volunteered for this mission, sacrificing years, believing they were forging a new path for their species. Now they were told that path was too dangerous for them to walk. A light step broke his reverie. Chief Engineer Dr. Lena Petrova, a woman whose slight frame housed a mind of breathtaking brilliance and a will of unyielding steel, approached him. Her dark hair was usually a mess of flyaways from hours spent in plasma-vented engineering bays, but now it was pulled back neatly, her shrewd eyes, magnified by her optical implants, betraying a flicker of a nascent idea. She had been with the Stellaris since its first durasteel plate was welded. "Captain," Lena said, her voice low, almost a whisper, "I've been thinking about the redesignation order. There might be another way." Aris turned to her, a flicker of hope, so faint it was almost painful, igniting within him. "Another way to what, Lena? To salvage the mission? To save everything?" Lena moved closer, lowering her voice further. "What if we didn't fight the order? What if we went along with it but found a way to make it work for us?" Her lips curved into a faint, grim smile. "The Concorde wants us to convert the ship for confined sector transit. They want us to remove or neutralize all our advanced systems. But they never said we couldn't replace them with something else." "Lena," Aris said, his voice laced with caution, "if you're suggesting we hide systems, that's a violation of Concorde law, a guaranteed expulsion." "No," Lena corrected, her eyes gleaming with a fierce, quiet intensity. "Not hide them, replace them, transform them, make them into something the Concorde would never suspect, because they can't even conceive of it." Aris stared at her, a chilling realization dawning on him. "You're talking about deception on a galactic scale, an audacious, unprecedented defiance." "I'm talking about survival," Lena countered, her gaze unwavering. "About making sure humanity has a future beyond their imposed cage. The aliens think they know us. They think we're just another species that needs to be controlled, but they don't understand what makes us human." "And what's that?" Aris prompted, leaning in. "We don't just adapt to environments," Lena said, her voice gaining strength. "We adapt environments, we adapt problems. They want to take away our terraforming tools. Fine. We'll build a better way to influence worlds and make it look like a glorified garbage hauler." Eris was silent for a long moment, the audacity of the plan breathtaking. It was crazy, dangerous, probably impossible. It would require fooling some of the oldest, most technologically advanced civilizations in the galaxy. One mistake would mean the end of humanity's fragile place in the Concord, perhaps even their eradication. But what choice did they have? Accept defeat and hope the aliens would always protect them, always provide. Trust species that had already shown they viewed humans as a fundamental threat to their meticulously ordered galaxy. "What exactly are you proposing?" Eris finally asked, the words barely audible. Lena's smile widened, a thin, determined line. "We're going to turn the Stellaris into a deep space bioharvesting and resource transport. At least, that's what the Concord will think. In reality, we're going to build something they've never seen before. Something that will make them regret underestimating humanity's ingenuity and its adaptability." Eris looked out at the stars again, but this time he saw possibility instead of defeat. "How long do we have?" 6 cycles to completely transform a vessel the size of a small moon," Lena replied, her eyes bright with challenge. "It's impossible, Captain, which means it's exactly the kind of thing humans are good at." Eris nodded slowly. "Then we better get started." As the two humans began planning the most audacious deception in galactic history, neither of them noticed the small, almost invisible biomimetic drone clinging to the underside of a console. Its organic sensors recorded everything, but its programming, long since overridden by a deeper, quieter command, didn't report to Stellaris security. Instead, it relayed every word, every plan, every secret to a very different authority. The real work was about to begin. 4 cycles into the conversion, the Stellaris looked nothing like the gleaming symbol of exploration it had once been. Captain Eris Thorne walked through corridors that had been completely rebuilt, past bays that now served entirely different purposes. Where once vast, terraforming conduits hummed with preparatory energy, now colossal, inert resource containers sat stacked, awaiting loading. Where genetic modification labs once whirred, rudimentary processing units for atmospheric particulates now clanked rhythmically. To anyone watching, especially the Concord inspectors, it looked like humanity was following the redesignation orders perfectly. "Captain Thorne!" A voice resonated behind him, cold and clear. Eris turned to see Emissary Ethel, the Lumina inspector assigned to monitor the conversion. The Lumina's shimmering form pulsed with a measured, analytical blue. "I must admit, your species has been remarkably compliant." "We follow the rules, Emissary," Eris replied, keeping his voice neutral, a bland mask over a seething core of defiance. "Indeed." Ethel's light pulsed, seeming to scan the very molecules of the corridor around them. "I confess, I am impressed by the speed of your conversion. Most species would take years to transform a vessel of this magnitude from an explorer terraformer to a simple freight hauler." "Humans are good at adapting," Eris said. "It's what we do." What Eris didn't mention was that humans were also very good at subverting. Behind every mundane facade Ethel could perceive, there was another layer, carefully concealed. Every system that appeared to be civilian had an evolved, repurposed counterpart, subtly integrated. The colossal resource collection arrays the inspector had meticulously examined were, in fact, a highly adaptive energy project. They seem unusually high for a bioharvesting and resource transport vessel, even accounting for your species' peculiar inefficiencies. Lena nodded. "That's because, our lithospheric grinders can process millions of tons of ore per day from extreme environments. And our environmental analysis labs need dynamic power for experiments that have never been attempted before in our sector. The ship Asterisk really would be capable of advanced bioharvesting and resource extraction." But what Lena didn't mention was that the same systems, with a few lines of code and a burst of dynamically rerouted power, could be used for very different purposes. The atmospheric scrubbers could generate focused, high-energy. Deep space bioharvesting is dangerous work, Sarina replied, reciting the prepared script flawlessly. Atmospheres can be volatile. Unstable gas pockets can damage equipment. We need craft that can handle anything space throws at them. Aris watched the Lumina emissary examine the drones. Its advanced alien sensors were missing the subtle, almost imperceptible signs that would have told it the truth. The rain? The aliens think they know what humans are capable of. They think they've caged us. They're about to find out they were profoundly, catastrophically wrong. Aris nodded. Around them, the work continued. Engineers disguised as logistics clerks, tactical officers masquerading as sanitation specialists. The greatest strategic deception in human history moved forward, one hidden modification at a time. In 2 cycles, the Stellaris, now officially redesignated as the Resilience, would launch on its first bioharvesting mission. The galaxy would see a lumbering cargo vessel leaving Earth's solar system, confined to its small sector. What they wouldn't see was the most adaptable, most unpredictable vessel ever conceived, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species. The aliens had wanted to take away humanity's future. Instead, they had given humans the motivation to build something far more dangerous, a defiant whisper of intent disguised as a mundane necessity. And the best part was, they would never see it coming. The conversion was almost complete. Soon, it would be time to test whether human ingenuity could truly fool the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Aris had a feeling they were about to find out. Deep within a sealed, encrypted server vault on Earth, a single, flickering data stream arrived from the biomimetic drone. It was just one of many such streams, originating from countless civilian human vessels, each one seemingly performing a different, mundane function. A small, almost forgotten AI core, its purpose shrouded in layers of misdirection and ancient, pre-concord protocols, processed the incoming data. Its designation, Architect, its silent directive, observe, learn, prepare. The true game was just beginning. The Architect AI core, quiescent for eons, stirred with purpose. Milliseconds translated into eons of computational cycles for its ancient processing matrix. Each data packet from the biomimetic drones a single, vital nerve impulse within its sprawling, planetary-scale network. The Resilience, now sailing under its new, innocuous designation, was the first test subject, its maiden voyage a meticulously orchestrated gamble. But it was not the only one. Throughout human space, nestled within burgeoning colonies, cloistered deep space habitats, and even masquerading as orbital traffic control hubs, other nodes of the Architect's distributed consciousness hummed with similar low-frequency energy signatures. Each was a silent sentinel, processing streams from 1,000 other civilian vessels. Good work, Xylos, Aris replied, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. The bioharvesting operations were entirely real, of course. The ship needed to produce verifiable yields to maintain its cover story. But every ton of biomatter and mineral ore they processed was also being refined into exotic, rapidly mutable materials that could be instantly repurposed for dynamic structural reinforcement or reconfigurable energy conduits. A quiet chime from the science station drew Aris's attention. "Captain!" Lieutenant Commander Sarina Voss looked up from her sensor display, her brow furrowed. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the outer system, unregistered vessels. They're not following established Concorde transit lanes, and their movement patterns suggest evasive maneuvering." Aris felt a familiar knot tighten in his gut. They had anticipated this. The Kepler sector, while designated for human confinement, was also known for its opportunistic scavengers and rogue factions, drawn to the rich, newly accessible resource veins. A vessel as seemingly large and defenseless as the Resilience would be an irresistible target. "How many contacts, Sarina?" Eris asked, his voice low. They were a motley assortment of designs, cobbled together from... He watched the raider vessels close the distance, their weapon arrays locking onto the apparently defenseless human vessel. Most were within a few dozen kilometers now, perfectly arrayed for a swift, overwhelming assault. It was exactly where he wanted them. "Sarina," he said quietly, a new note of command entering his voice. "Begin the reconfiguration. Initiate Project Adaptive Resurgence." Lieutenant Commander Voss's fingers flew over her console, a blur of motion. "All stations, this is not a drill. Project Adaptive Resurgence is now active. Reconfiguration sequence initiated." The Resilience began to change. The first alteration was subtle, a barely perceptible shimmer across the ship's vast hull. Then, with a low, resonant thrum that vibrated through the very deck plates, the vessel's outer shell began to shift and reconfigure. Panels that had appeared to be inert cargo access points slid away, revealing intricate networks of energy conduits glowing with suppressed power. The massive, outwardly visible bioharvesting arrays, once seemingly fixed in place, began to retract and telescope, folding back into the ship's interior, replaced by configurations of hardened, multi-layered durasteel and glowing energy projectors that bore no resemblance to civilian technology. "What in the..." Kragger's voice, now laced with a sudden, disbelieving tremor, cut through the calm. But that was just the beginning. "That ship!" "Impossible," Kragger whispered, the transmission almost choked with disbelief. The very bioharvesting lasers that had been diligently siphoning methane from gas giants all morning suddenly swiveled, their immense power conduits locking onto the raider fleet. But they weren't bioharvesting lasers anymore. They were the Resilience S primary omnibeam projectors, the most potent multi-purpose energy weapons ever conceived by human hands, capable of punching through any known shield or armor, of atomizing rock or, indeed, entire starships. "This is Captain Eris Thorne." Eris's voice resonated across the comm, now a voice of steel, commanding, uncompromising. "You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Here's your answer." The first raider ship, still stunned, managed to fire a desperate salvo. Its crude energy bolts, designed to cripple and disable, struck the Resilience S containment fields. The energy blasts that should have shredded a civilian vessel were absorbed without even causing a ripple in the ship's power systems. The Resilience S shields, cloaked as atmospheric stability fields, were far more advanced than anything the raiders possessed. The Resilience S response was swift, devastating. What had seemed like an easy plundering run had instantly transformed into a terrifying, one-sided annihilation. Eris watched the battle unfold on his tactical displays. The raiders were savage, he'd give them that. They fought with desperate ferocity, using every trick and illegal modification at their disposal. But they were fighting technology that was cycles, perhaps even eons, beyond anything they had ever encountered. "Captain," Sarina reported, her voice laced with grim satisfaction, "we're detecting a transmission from the pirate flagship. It's on an open channel." "Let me... Here." "What are your orders, Captain?" Xylos asked, his face a mask of controlled anticipation. Eris looked at the debris field where a few flickering wrecks glowed against the dark. Soon, the galaxy would know that humanity had not been disarmed. They would know that the species everyone thought was weak, primitive, and confined had built something extraordinary. "Resume bioharvesting operations," Eris said, his voice calm, "and prepare for visitors. I have a strong feeling the Galactic Concord is going to want to have a very long conversation with us." The Resilience slowly returned to its innocuous bioharvesting configuration. its gleaming omnibeam projectors retracting, its Vigil interceptors folding back into hidden compartments, the shifting hull panels resealing as if nothing had ever happened. To any Concorde scout ship arriving later, it would look like a normal civilian vessel going about its peaceful business. A few lingering energy signatures from the recent skirmish easily attributed to malfunctioning bioharvesting equipment or unstable atmospheric discharges. But Eris knew that the initial illusion was over. Humanity had shown its hand, not completely, but enough to shatter the Concorde's comfortable assumptions. And now, the true game was about to begin. The Galactic Concorde fleet arrived 3 cycles later. It was larger than anything Eris Thorne had ever seen outside of simulations. Dozens of ships from across the Concorde. The cold, gleaming, crystalline forms of Lumina frigates, the ponderous, armored dreadnoughts of the Kroth, the organic Faye, and Hegemon Urgorath and Arbiter Viridia are also on the channel. Eris straightened his uniform. He had been expecting this confrontation, but that didn't lessen its monumental importance. Everything humanity had struggled for, every secret modification, every lie, every desperate hope could depend on the next few hours. "On screen," he said. The bridge's main view screen flickered to life, showing the interior of a Lumina command chamber. Emissary Ethel, its shimmering form pulsing with a sharp, interrogative blue, stood at the center. Behind it, the imposing mineral-plated bulk of Urgorath and the ethereal, vine-tangled form of Viridia were clearly visible. The most powerful species in the galaxy, all arrayed to confront one human ship. "Captain Eris Thorne," Ethel's voice resonated, cold and precise. "Actually, Arbiter, it is." Lena Petrova stepped forward, her voice calm, utterly confident. "May I elaborate?" Ethel's light hardened. "You may attempt to." Lena activated a holographic display that showed the Resilience S external schematics. "What you are observing, Emissary, is a deep space bioharvesting and resource transport vessel. Exactly as we reported, every system on this ship serves a civilian purpose." "Then explain the weapons," Urgorath demanded, its armored plates shifting. "Those aren't weapons, Hegemon," Lena said calmly, her eyes fixed on the display. "They are omnibeam projectors, designed to cut through dense, atmospheric anomalies, vaporize solid rock for mineral extraction, and neutralize corrosive biohazards. The fact that they can also be used for defense against hostile entities is simply a side benefit of their robust, multi-purpose design. Bioharvesting lasers that can destroy military-grade vessels." Ethel's voice pulsed with disbelief. "Dr. Petrova, you strain the credulity of the Concorde. Deep space bioharvesting in uncharted, unstable regions requires incredibly powerful tools. Emissary," Lena explained, her tone patient, didactic. "We're not talking about simple surface biosampling drones," Lena replied without hesitation, effortlessly shifting the holographic display to show a squadron of Vigil interceptors, now labeled as Advanced Atmospheric Harvesters. Designed to operate autonomously in dangerous environments, to navigate complex weather systems, to extract samples from volatile gas giant cores. They need to be fast, highly maneuverable, and well-protected. The fact that they proved effective against opportunistic scavengers is unfortunate, but not surprising given their robust design for hostile planetary conditions. "Dr. Petrova," Ethel resonated, its light pulsing a deep, frustrated blue. "You are asking us to believe that humanity has built the most powerful civilian vessel in galactic history purely by coincidence." "Not by coincidence, Emissary," Lena corrected, her eyes gleaming with defiant pride. "By necessity. Humans are expanding into regions of space that other species consider too dangerous, too unprofitable, or simply too unknown. We need equipment that can handle those challenges. Our drive to explore and settle is simply that, a drive to survive and thrive. Eris could see the Concorde representatives exchanging silent, unreadable glances. They were clearly frustrated, but they were also, unmistakably, beginning to realize that they might have profoundly underestimated humanity's capabilities. "We demand to inspect your vessel, Captain Thorne," Gorath finally declared, its voice a thunderous command. "Every compartment, every system, every piece of equipment, without delay." "Of course, Hegemon," Eris replied, a subtle, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "We have nothing to hide." What followed was the most intensive, most bewildering inspection in galactic history. Teams of alien experts, Lumina, Kroth, Sylvani, and many others, meticulously went through every inch of the Resilience, scanning, testing, and analyzing everything they could find. Eris and his crew cooperated fully, leading the inspectors around as if they were proud tour guides of a perfectly normal bioharvesting vessel. The aliens found exactly what they expected to find: a deep space bioharvesting and resource transport vessel with incredibly advanced equipment. The Omnibeam projectors were exactly what Lena had claimed. They were multi-purpose tools capable of processing planetary materials. The Vigil interceptors were indeed designed for dangerous sampling operations in hostile atmospheres. The massive Stellaris core seed reactor was demonstrably needed to power all the ship's civilian systems. But what the aliens couldn't understand was that human engineering was fundamentally different from their own. Their technologies were specialized, optimized for a single, clearly defined function. Human technology, born of necessity and relentless adaptation, was modular, layered, and profoundly adaptable. Every system on the Resilience was both exactly what it appeared to be and something entirely different. A bioharvesting laser could become a defensive weapon with a subtle shift in energy frequency. A resource refinery could become a rapid prototyping facility for advanced composites. An environmental analysis lab could become a tactical command center. A civilian reactor could power military-grade defensive fields just as easily as it could power atmospheric scrubbers. The humans had built a ship that was civilian and military, peaceful and devastating, honest and deceptive, all at the same time. "I am impressed, Captain Thorne," Ethel finally resonated after 5 cycles of relentless inspection, its light a curious shade of shimmering violet. "Your species has achieved something remarkable." "Oh, thank you, emissary," Eris replied, his composure unshaken. "However," Ethel continued, its light hardening to a stern blue, "the Galactic Concorde is deeply concerned about the implications of your technology. If humans can build civilian vessels with this kind of multifunctional capability," Eris mused, "what else might you be working on?" Eris exchanged glances with Lena. This was the true crux of the confrontation, the moment they had been preparing for. "Emissary Ethel," Eris began, his voice carrying clearly across the comm. "Humanity has no desire to threaten anyone. We simply want to explore, to expand, to develop regions of space that others deem inhospitable or unprofitable. Our technology is designed for survival and growth, not for conquest." "And yet," Gorath interjected, its massive form rippling, "you have demonstrated that human civilian vessels are more capable than our specialized military fleets. This is unacceptable." "That is not our fault, Hegemon," Eris countered, his voice firm. "We offered to share our technological breakthroughs with the Concorde when we first joined. You refused, stating that human engineering was too primitive or unpredictable to be integrated into your established designs." The alien representatives were quiet for a long moment, their forms radiating a palpable sense of struggle. Eris could almost feel their ancient, rigid assumptions grinding against the undeniable reality before them. Humanity, dismissed as a chaotic, primitive species, had built something that fundamentally challenged the technological superiority and strategic doctrines of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "What are your intentions?" Viridia finally whispered, its tendrils trembling almost imperceptibly. "To continue our mission," Eris replied, his gaze sweeping across the stunned alien faces on the viewscreen. "To bioharvest resources, conduct deep space research, and explore new regions of space. To be good, contributing members of the Galactic Concord." His lips curved into a challenging smile. "And if other species feel threatened by our capabilities, emissary. Perhaps they should reconsider their assumptions about humanity's primitiveness." The Concord fleet departed 2 cycles later, a vast, silent armada melting into hyperspace, leaving the Resilience alone once more in the Kepler sector. Eris stood on the bridge, watching the last glimmer of alien engines vanish. "Do you think they bought it?" Xylos asked, a hint of genuine relief in his voice. "They bought what they wanted to buy, Xylos," Eris replied, turning from the viewscreen. "They saw a bioharvesting ship because that's what we meticulously showed them it was, but they also saw that humanity is not as helpless as they thought, that our peculiar inefficiencies are, in fact, something else entirely." He paused, looking out at the endless expanse of stars. "And now we continue the mission. We harvest our resources, we conduct our research, and we wait to see what the galaxy does next." What Eris couldn't say on an open channel, was that the Resilience was no longer alone. Deep within classified asteroid fields, camouflaged amidst stellar nurseries, or silently cruising through seemingly empty void, other converted vessels were already at work. The Solstice, the Catalyst, the Pioneer, and a dozen more. Each one appeared to be a mundane civilian ship going about its peaceful business. A planetary survey vessel here, a long-haul cargo transport there, a mobile medical platform in a distant nebula. But each one carried the same hidden capabilities, the same layered engineering, the same defiant adaptability as the Resilience. Humanity had not just built one incredible ship. They had built an entire Fleet coordinated by the silent, omnipresent architect AI. And the galaxy, still reeling from the Resilience's revelation, was about to discover that underestimating humanity was a very, very dangerous mistake. The Concord had wanted to disarm. Hegemon Gorath himself has been unusually vocal, calling for a decisive demonstration against human expansion. "And the Silvani Arboreal Collective?" Maria asked, her gaze drifting to a projected image of the Catalyst, currently operating under deep-crust seismic profiler designation in a desolate, mineral-rich system. "The Silvani Arbiter, Viridia, remains deeply apprehensive," Vance continued. "They haven't openly called for aggression, but their ecological reports are increasingly alarmist. They fear humanity's inherent adaptability could destabilize nascent biospheres on a galactic scale, seeing our mere existence as a form of pervasive ecological contamination." Maria nodded slowly. "They see us as a virus, too resilient, too adaptable, too human. The pressure was immense. Every decision now carried the weight of an entire species' future. "Fleet status, General." "We have 15 more vessels fully converted and integrated into the Architect network," Vance reported, his voice tinged with pride. "The Solstice is maintaining perfect cover as an atmospheric processing plant in the Cygnus Rift. The Pioneer has successfully established its agricultural transport route to the Valerius Expanse. And we've brought the Epoch online, designated as a long-range deep space medical platform, currently operating in the Proxima Nebula. All appear entirely civilian. They've actually become incredibly efficient at bioharvesting. Their cover story is holding perfectly. In fact, their processed yields are now so high, they're supplying a third of our core colony's exotic material requirements. Meanwhile, far in the Kepler sector, The Resilience continued its ceaseless, deceptive work. Captain Aris Thorne had settled into a rhythm that was both utterly routine and profoundly extraordinary. By day, they meticulously harvested biomatter and refined minerals. By night, in the deep space darkness, they conducted advanced research on new, adaptive materials and energy conduits, pushing the boundaries of known science. They believed demonstrating overwhelming force against an unprotected human industrial hub will force the Concorde to act against us and crush our problematic technologies. Aris leaned back in his chair, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. Solara, a small, unassuming colony, ostensibly a mining and processing facility, but in reality, a critical node in the Architect network, a quiet assembly point for more than just raw materials. It was precisely where they wanted the Croth to strike. "What are our orders, Madam President?" "Continue your current mission, Captain. Appear civilian, as always, but be prepared to defend human space if necessary." And Aris, Maria's holographic image, leaned forward, her eyes burning with a fierce, defiant light. The galaxy is about to learn that underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake they ever made. This time, they will not just be impressed, they will understand. The President's image flickered. "Out! Any communication from the fleet?" Aris asked, his voice steady. "Yes, sir," Xylos Kaelin replied, his fingers flying over his console. "Standard ultimatum. They're demanding the immediate surrender and decommissioning of the Solara hub and the arrest of all human personnel for technological subversion under Article 7 of Concorde law." Aris almost laughed. "Their surrender to a mining hub?" "Captain Thorne," a new voice boomed across the communication system, raw and commanding, a guttural growl that reverberated through the Resilience's bridge. "This is Hegemon Urgorath, commander of the Croth Retribution Fleet. Your deception ends now, human. We know what your civilian operations truly are. The Croth hegemony will not allow such unregulated weapons to exist. Surrender Solara immediately or face complete orbital bombardment." "Hegemon," Aris replied, opening a wide-spectrum channel, his voice calm, almost cordial. "This is Captain Aris Thorne of the Resilience. We are a deep space bioharvesting and resource transport vessel, currently performing routine resource transfers at the Solara mining hub. Solara is a civilian installation. We are not at war with anyone. Your duplicity is an affront to galactic order, human." Urgorath roared, his voice laced with unyielding. "Relay initiated through Solara network." "What was that, human?" Urgorath demanded over the comm, a tremor of confusion now in his voice. "Standard procedure for civilian installations under unprovoked attack, Hegemon," Aris replied, his tone laced with a chilling honesty. "A distress call." The Croth fleet began to move closer, their immense weapon conduits flaring, 1,000 points of death concentrating on the seemingly helpless Solara hub. Aris could see the alien ships spreading out, forming a perfect, impenetrable cordon around the human installation. It was a textbook tactical maneuver, the kind that would work against any normal, defenseless target. "Admiral," Aris said, reopening the channel, his voice suddenly resonating with an authority that left no room for doubt. "I'm going to give you one chance to withdraw. You are making a mistake that will alter the course of galactic history." "The only mistake," Urgorath snarled, "was allowing your species to enter the Concorde in the first place. Now, witness true power, human, for the hegemony." The first Croth ships opened fire. Massive energy lances and kinetic projectiles streamed towards the Solara hub, designed to utterly obliterate its civilian infrastructure. The blasts were powerful enough to turn an entire asteroid into molten slag. But as they struck the hub's newly activated, cloaked shields, they dissipated with barely a ripple. Absorbed by adaptive energy fields, the Croth couldn't even register. "Return fire," Eris ordered, his voice ringing with quiet command. But the Resilience did not fire. Instead, Solara Hub itself responded. What had appeared to be the hub's inert, colossal processing facilities suddenly began to reconfigure. Massive, segmented panels on the hub's exterior retracted with a groan of stressed durasteel, revealing banks of omnibeam projectors far larger and more numerous than those on the Resilience. Industrial cranes, previously loading refined ore, spun and locked into new positions, transforming into rapid-fire kinetic accelerators. Automated cargo shuttles, seemingly used for internal transfer, detached from their berths, their hulls shifting to reveal compact, multi-purpose weapon systems. Solara Hub was not just a mining facility, it was a hardened, self-sufficient tactical platform. "Impossible!" Urgorath screamed over the comm, his voice now a strangled, disbelieving gasp. "This is a asterisk mining installation asterisk?" Then the true revelation began. At the edge of the system, a single contact shimmered into existence, dropping out of hyperspace. It was the Solstice, its massive bulk appearing to be a lumbering atmospheric processing plant, its immense intake vents glowing. But as the Croth sensors desperately tried to categorize it, the Solstice-S intake vents reconfigured, morphing into colossal, wide-spectrum energy projectors. 3 Croth destroyers, caught in the Solstice-S initial, unexpected volley, simply disintegrated. Then another vessel appeared. The Pioneer, disguised as a long-range agricultural transport, its vast hydroponic domes seemingly inert. But as it shifted, the domes retracted, revealing arrays of compact, long-range missile launchers, each projectile filled with a dynamically reconfigurable payload. One by one, more ships dropped out of hyperspace, but together they represented the most advanced, most adaptable, and most utterly unexpected fleet the galaxy had ever witnessed. "Hegemon Urgorath," Eris's voice resonated across the Croth fleet's command channels, calm, yet utterly devastating. "I'd like you to meet the rest of the Human Interstellar Consortium." The Croth fleet, previously so confident in its numerical and technological superiority, was now surrounded by what appeared to be dozens of civilian vessels. But Urgorath could see the panic on his tactical displays. Their sensors were detecting energy signatures that didn't match any known civilian technology, weapon outputs that defied known physics, and tactical coordination that transcended even the most advanced military AI. "We have defended ourselves, as allowed, and now we will be taking your attacking vessels into custody to be turned over to the appropriate authorities." You're going to arrest us," Urgorath sputtered, disbelief warring with humiliation. "Of course, Hegemon," Eris replied. "What did you think would happen?" As the human ships, their civilian facades still mostly intact, began the methodical process of boarding the disabled Croth vessels, Eris opened a new communication channel. This one, amplified by the Architect network, reached every inhabited system in the galaxy. "This is Captain Aris Thorne of the Resilience, speaking on behalf of the Human Interstellar Consortium," he stated, his voice calm, clear, and utterly resolute. "Today, a Croth hegemony military fleet attacked civilian human installations and vessels without provocation. We defended ourselves, as permitted under Galactic Concord law. We have neutralized the attacking vessels and will be turning them over for judgment." He paused, knowing that every species, every government, every sentient being in the known galaxy was listening. "Let me be unequivocally clear," Aris continued, his voice gaining power. "Humanity has no desire for conquest, no ambition for domination. We seek only to explore." Over the following months, the political landscape of the galaxy underwent a dramatic, irreversible shift. The Lumina Collective, stunned and humbled, saw the Ether Ascendants lose all credibility, replaced by moderates who cautiously reached out to humanity for diplomatic talks and technological exchanges. The Croth hegemony, their military prestige shattered, plunged into internal chaos, their expansionist ambitions curtailed. Smaller species that had previously been hesitant to engage with humanity now actively sought trade agreements, alliances, and even requests for multifunctional engineering assistance. And through it all, the human fleet continued its work, mining asteroids, conducting deep space research, establishing new colonies, exploring uncharted regions. To anyone watching, they were simply civilian vessels going about their peaceful business, contributing to the galactic economy. But Eris Thorne, standing on the Resilience S bridge, watching the distant stars, knew the truth. Humanity had not just survived their first true test as a galactic power. They had passed it so completely, so decisively, that the rest of the galaxy was still struggling to comprehend